And it's so cool to know that you're also here in Calgary. So I didn't realize that.
100%.
Awesome.
Yes. Are you originally from Calgary?
No, I'm from Ontario, close to Toronto, like a
Okay.
smaller town outside.
Nice. What's it called?
Guelph.
Oh,
Not,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, not that small. Small when I was growing up, but not anymore.
And then what brought you out west?
I came out west a few times. I came here for the first time in 2002. So I've been in aviation a really long time, since I was 19. And I first came out here just because my airline at the time I was really young and they were doing like 7-day Hawaii trips from Calgary. And it just seemed like a no brainer. Like just
Exactly.
go live in Hawaii pretty much and get paid for it. So that's the first time I came here. And then I was here for 2 years, um, and loved it. But then I just missed home and I was still pretty young. So I moved back to Ontario, just to see my family. That didn't last for long. Ended up in the Middle East from there, and then Abu Dhabi, and then eventually, when I came home from Abu Dhabi, my sister had moved here, and my sister and I are very, very close. So then it was like, well, my closest family member is here, and I love the mountains, and I love it here. So I just came back.
I love it. What
Yeah.
brought you to Abu Dhabi? Yeah.
Abu Dhabi at the time it was Etihad, so that was the third airline I worked for. So I've been in aviation for 21 years. This is
Oh, nice.
actually I've officially retired just 2 months ago, which is crazy.
Does it feel weird?
Yeah, it does. It's I don't miss flying because I feel like I've done so much. Like I've seen so much of the world. I'm so grateful for that. And I actually really love the being grounded. Like I'm actually very excited for this. But a lot of people that try to leave, they get sucked back in because it's just not their time. There's still more on their bucket list. There's still more to see and do. And I feel pretty content.
How
So,
did you know that I'm good now? Like this is now time to, you know,
well,
next chapters of life, right? I wouldn't even say throw in the bucket because it's literally your next chapter.
no, I think I just had to come to some acceptance that it's it doesn't end my adventures, my travel. I can still travel. I just can do what I want. And so as you know, the pat so with my fourth airline actually being ended up being deployed to the UN, working overseas. So the last 10 years and the majority of my aviation career was war zones and with the UN. So that wears on a person for sure.
And what airline would that be?
So it's actually a small airline out of Ontario called Voyager, not very well known. And we're pretty much our 95% of our work is contracted to the UN. So we don't really fly anyone else, so nobody knows about us.
Right.
Yeah.
The low key
Low
underground air.
key. Yeah, it's in North Bay, Ontario. So super low key. Way up there.
Now, have you always been someone that was a fit, active individual?
Not to the point that I am now or that I have been in the past
Mm.
11 years since competing. I wasn't, I was never very competitive growing up when it came to team sports or anything. Everything, my competition is always with myself. It always has been, always trying to beat my best. So I wasn't really on a lot of team sports. I was in gymnastics when I was younger, and I did some track. I got into running later on, and when I was applying for the police, so that was what I was doing before I went with the UN. I was in school for policing, and I went back 10 years older than everyone else in college. And so, because I've been traveling since I was
Right.
19. So, when I went back as an adult student, 10 years older than everyone else, I felt sort of, I guess, embarrassed in a way. And I thought, I was never super competitive in high school, but now there was a timeline. Like I was 27 years old. It was time to grow up. I needed
Yeah.
to start my career, like the next career. And and then I just needed to be the best applicant possible, I felt. So I just went overboard. I had 4 volunteer jobs through college. I worked part-time in a gym, and then of course college. And then I just wanted to chase every achievement award or anything that I could. I just wanted to be the best applicant I could because I was applying to the RCMP after. So
Did you have family in the RCMP or anybody else?
No, no. I chose the RCMP kind of post Abu Dhabi, actually. It was because of I didn't know exactly how to do this. I just knew at the time, it's funny how, because what I'm doing now, um, back then the mission was more in my head. I was in Abu Dhabi for a year, and that was my first real, I guess, kind of culture shock before, all the past 10 years with the UN. So now I'm super used to other countries, I've been all over, but I think that was the first time that I had seen women kind of treated differently and or different cultures, the difference in how even I was treated as a Canadian there compared to like other countries. It's like that once they found out where you were from, there was kind of a hierarchy and where you landed and how you were respected. And so
Was Canada respected well?
it was actually, it was, so people did like that once, but for instance, two of my roommates, because you live with other crew. So two of my roommates were Romanian, and they didn't get the same treatment that I did. And it really bothered me, just the littlest things, just how people would always ask where you were from and then how that mattered. That just bothered me. Anyway,
Well, we get that in North American cultures, like, what do you do for work?
yeah, we do. Yeah, you're
And
right.
indirectly, people put you in a place, right? Of
Yeah.
hierarchy.
They just, yeah, I'm, that's so true. And I feel that way with all stereotypes. Because I even feel that as being a flight attendant or being even a fitness competitor or fitness model or every single like box or anything that I'm supposed to fall into, I've never felt like I fit into. I don't think I fit into any of them. And so anytime I'd get that stereotype, it would drive me crazy.
Oh yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
You can learn something from everybody. So hopefully you're doing it in a positive manner. If you are kind of putting people in boxes, because I don't know, I don't think people are in boxes. You got to get to know them a little more, and you'll
Yeah.
realize no one's really in a box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That's
dive deep, right? Just get deeper in. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
When you when you look at yourself, what makes you think that you were never in a box? Like, why were you the black sheep?
Oh, I just don't think I've ever, like, my entire life, I don't think I fit into any stereotype that anybody ever imagined. Like, and it's bothered me since I was a kid. Like, anything from, if any of my friends smoked, then people assume you do. I'm like, no, I'm an individual. Like, I'm a different person. And it doesn't mean I don't have friends that do different things than me, So even just things like that as a teenager, or I grew up in government housing. So most of the kids in our area, it was not, nobody really had any money in our area. So then there was also some crime, but not everyone. Not everyone was like that, right? So I've always just had, even as a child, like everyone always thought you were something different.
Yeah. Rich
Because,
people also have problems too, I've realized.
yes, absolutely. And you know what? I've actually, growing up without money, I have a lot of friends now that are also very successful. And I realized that I used to have that thought or that stereotype, not feeling comfortable around rich people. I thought I didn't used to feel comfortable.
And what
And
was that
one of
like? Just self-worth?
yeah, I think so. I think it's just because I felt like they'd figure me out, that I came from nothing and then they wouldn't like me or something like that. I'm not sure. But one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, didn't, grow up like that, but now is. And then, other friends as well. And it's just made me realize, like, even I stereotyped. Like, I'm so against it, but I did, because I felt like, oh, they're going to be snobby to me or not accept me. It's not the case at all. you know?
Because you also realize as everyone's got struggles, right? No matter what you have, it's what's inside of you, right? And that's
Yes.
shaking. It doesn't matter if you got a big house and you're, miserable inside or whatever you're feeling, right? So
Right. Yeah.
happiness comes from within. And, when you're younger, I bet there are moments where you thought you had it all, right? You didn't need
Mhm.
everything.
Or you didn't know like, I remember in our neighborhood thinking, oh, people think we don't have anything because everyone is in this neighborhood, you know, is stereotyped. And then I end up traveling the world, and I end up in countries that have nothing compared to what we have.
Yeah. What made you push through and continue fitness while you've been traveling and moving throughout the world?
Well, when I first, oh, I didn't really finish that story from the policing. I just realized that
No.
that's where the drive first came. So I think that's how I really got into fitness. That's when I started competing, and I started racing. I started doing training for half marathons and everything. All of it was to excel, you know, for my application to the RCMP. That got sidetracked with the UN. But anyway, when I ended up with the UN instead, which I just feel that kind of it was meant to be the way it came up and kind of landed in my lap at the right time. And I had already started competing because I was in school beforehand, working in a gym. So I'd done my first couple competitions while I was in college as an adult student for policing. And they went really well. I didn't know I'd never seen a show before. I didn't know what to expect or anything about it. But I ended up winning my first couple shows and was hooked, of course, after that. And but then I heard back and I got the job, and they were sending me to Afghanistan for my very first tour. So I thought, okay, well, I was just doing this for fun to, you know, while I was here, and now I'm off to Afghanistan. So my life's gonna be different. So I'm not going to compete anymore. And then I got there, and that is not the time to not focus on fitness. That is the exact time to focus on fitness when you've got the environmental stresses that we did, of course. So everybody kind of lets it out in the gym. Is really there's a real purpose for it there. And we really do need to be able to take care of our physical self to essentially take care of our mental health as well, right? So, so I kept training. I didn't commit to anything. And then I realized it was possible. And I thought that's kind of a unique challenge. I should try that. So I committed to do a show. At the time it was in Ontario, and I did my prep in Kandahar, flew home a couple of weeks before the show, competed, and I won again. So I was like, okay, this is working out. So,
and is there prize money involved in this as well?
Not at that level. Those were just small regional shows. I wasn't pro yet. So I got my pro status later on. And then now there's some cash or crowns and that sort of thing.
Super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just continued on with it because it was possible, because obviously once I had bases where it was possible, but for a good chunk of time after Afghanistan, it wasn't possible because we went to places that there was just next to nothing. And when I moved to some of the Africa bases, so it's not that I couldn't do it, it's that I also wanted to do other things. So I did other things on my time off. Like I got into skydiving and hiking and everything. And then a few years went by, and I missed the routine of bodybuilding and fitness. So I wanted another challenge. I was stationed in I flopped around between South Sudan, Uganda, Niger, and Congo.
Okay. Did you go to Tanzania? That's where I was born. Yeah.
Were you really? I've climbed Kili, but
okay, in Arusha, yes.
Yeah, that's what I took time off for. So I was like competing in Afghanistan, but then when I first went to Africa, and there was just all these other possibilities. I thought I can't just only compete when there's like Kili to climb and bungee jumping and skydiving, and so I just wanted to do it all. So I took a period of time off.
My mom's brother's still in Arusha. Wow.
Really? Oh, it's beautiful. Have you been?
No. Well, I was born there and then came here at a young age.
Back.
Yeah, never went back.
No.
I do want to go. I want to see Zanzibar.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love Zanzibar. Yeah. Yeah, you've got to go back. It's gorgeous country.
When you look at kind of what you've done, any regrets?
With anything? Like
you're like, where do I start? I'm just kidding.
I'm like, oh, maybe. I don't think so though, because I don't,
right?
Yeah, I don't really believe in regrets. I just feel that I've learned from everything, and it doesn't matter. Even if it got me down at the time, if I've been through lots of hard times over the past decade, especially, well, longer than that, of course, just in life, but the past 10 years deployed in war zones, I've seen some stuff and been pretty traumatized from a few things, but yeah, it doesn't feel so great in the moment, but it's part of who I am now. And it's part of my story and part of what I've learned and part of what I can give back and how I can help others
How
through
come you never
their hard
quit
time.
when you see something traumatizing? You're like, most oftentimes, they ain't paying me enough to see that shit. I'm out of here.
Yeah, when those things come up, I usually just ask for a base change. And then usually end up at the same base of, it doesn't go away. We end up back there eventually, but sometimes you just need like a reboot. So that has happened. I've been in a few tough tours but I was also there for a long time. Like Darfur was pretty tough. So, after a while, I think I did 4 tours in a row. And then I'm not just Darfur and Khartoum and both. And after that, it wears you down. You're just like, okay, like give me something else for a little bit and then I can come back,
So you'd
So
fly there. What are you guys dropping off? Is it medical equipment? Is it food?
no, we fly all the staff. So all the UN staff that's deployed overseas.
Right. Okay.
So we fly them into their missions. We fly some of the higher ups from New York whenever they come in to oversee everything and to have meetings.
Right.
We fly peace talks, like we'll fly the presidents and the vice presidents of different countries for peace talks. We fly refugees, a lot of rescue flights, lots of rescue flights. The Ebola rescue flights we did, lots of COVID rescue flights. Lots of prisoners where the UN has fought to have them released. So we would fly in to pick up the prisoners after, like in Yemen or, after 7 years of being captive, and we would take them home. Really emotional flights, very, very emotional flights with our passengers. So it wasn't, in fact, we didn't normally even serve. So my job there was not anything like people would imagine a regular flight attendant job. We didn't serve food or anything. And we didn't fly under normal circumstances at all. And a lot of the times,
So
I'm
were you
checking.
guys like sitting there and saying, please fasten your seatbelt and doing all the
Yeah, I mean, I do that. I was the only one on board, so it's just me.
Oh, okay.
They're small planes, right? So, but yeah, there's a bit of that because we fly people from every country too, so a lot of language barriers as well. But yeah, it's way different. Like in Afghanistan, my passengers had weapons, so you're not going to see that on WestJet or Canada. So
Like guns?
yeah, so
Oh,
I'd have to take them from people, or I just have to check before they get on that the magazine's out, that it's not loaded, things like that. There was just different rules. So, but yeah, like that
check
was
if there's a detonator. Yeah, you never know.
right. Yeah, or if we had like high profile flights, I would take like everybody's cell phone or something
Right.
if you would worry about because if you had a lot of high profile people on board and you're a good target,
Oh,
so
yes. Yeah.
we'd get really strict. So I felt more like a security guard to be honest, but it was a very different atmosphere. Yeah.
So it's interesting. You were in Sudan most recently.
No, my last tour, my final goodbye tour was in Tunisia, which was fantastic.
That would be beautiful to see. I
It's
mean,
so
the
beautiful.
positive side. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing, amazing last tour, amazing way to end it. I love Tunisia, but the mission that we worked on was Libya. So we live in Tunisia because Libya was too dangerous for us to live in, or else we would have been there. So we would fly into Tripoli most days.
And this is after the Gaddafi reign.
Yeah, yeah, after, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
Gosh, you've
interesting.
seen a lot.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the news, that comes out, it's funny because we'd be flying people into a situation, and then it would come out later. And sometimes you see us in the background, or I would say take screenshots and send it to my parents, because normally nobody would know who's there, right? But yeah, it was interesting, and they liked it, and sometimes they didn't because they're like, I don't really want to know what, like, now that I read the story, now I worry about you more.
What are you doing nowadays, or what are you hoping to do? Because you started some angels, right?
Army of Angels.
Army of Angels.
Those are my girls. That's my team. Yeah. Yeah. I started that earlier this year in May. It was the very first group. I've been coaching online for a while before that, and I've done personal training for a while as well. And then overseas, just more for volunteer with my, on bases, I would teach boot camps. So I taught boot camps in Afghanistan with the soldiers, and then in Africa with some of the staff or some of my friends in the crew or on the crew. So I've always kept fitness going. And then Army of Angels formed just because I'd had enough. It was time to come home. I wanted to be by my family again and kind of just enjoy Canada finally after all this time. So I called it Army of Angels really because it kind of a take on obviously the past decade in war zones. So working with a lot of militaries, so this army, there's the family aspect of it, the camaraderie, but also just the badass toughness, and then angels, who's the beauty side of it, right, as well, and the kindness. So there's a lot of, in fitness over the years, there's been a lot of generalization and stereotypes again, as well, about, female competitors or bodybuilders or anything. And people love to have their opinions about how somebody should look and if they're too strong or too skinny or whatever, and I that to celebrate the strength and the beauty together, so that's essentially where it came from. So I went with Army of Angels, and I started a group, an online coaching group. And I go through, I do their programs in nutrition and training, and then mindset as well. So we do group discussions every weekend, and I present on a different topic, or we study different books. So we're studying Atomic Habits actually right now. So it's cool.
Book, all encompassing.
What's that?
It's a great book, isn't it?
It's so great. I love it. And it's amazing to actually study, to break it down and make presentations on it, because then you absorb it even more, right? So
I love self-help books. One's called The Shadow Effect, and I absolutely adore it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that one. Okay, I'll look for that.
Shadow Effect. Yeah, it's really neat. It's the things that we often have, which is, when we're walking, we have a shadow, but we don't look at or go in, but it follows us. So it's like the fears and all the shit that we suppress, like trauma, all the things. Oh, I don't want to go there because it's too hard to face it. But it'll always be with you, and you won't be able to be free from those shackles that hold you down. So open that chest and go in and gently and face those fears.
Sometimes just as part of the therapy to get better again, I've been there before. So
how do you unfuck yourself or remove the what you've seen or what you've heard, especially someone like yourself that has been around a lot?
Yeah, I used to need, I had to start recognizing that certain tours, when I was coming home, I knew better than to make plans with everybody right away. So I knew that I needed a little bit of a decompression time. And when I first moved out west, I did live with my sister, and we lived out in Bragg Creek, actually, when we first moved here.
Oh, beautiful, isn't it?
So nice, so peaceful. So it was the perfect area to be, right? So it was just super tranquil. And so when I first came home, I wouldn't make any major plans right away unless it was something that was, with my family or hiking or something like that. But with certain friends, and it's not any of these friends' faults or anything like that, but I started to realize over the years that it would bother me if I went to a big social event or something right when I got home. You'd think you'd want to, because you want to celebrate and, see everyone again. But if I would get home and it was, a bunch of friends and they're just complaining or talking about certain issues that were very first world problems, and I just left
level.
Yeah. And, they're so stressed out and they need to go to Palm Springs to detox for a bit, and then I've got my friends in Afghanistan emailing me, we were fired on 12 times yesterday. And I was like, I can't listen to your spa problems right now. I just can't. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I enjoy it. And in fact, I probably needed it after Afghanistan, but I just knew that I needed a decompression time. So I didn't see a lot of people right away, a couple of weeks.
I think the balance is good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Grounded yet levitated.
Right. Yeah. 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 Because I still enjoy all of that. And I mean, of course, I'm a pretty girly girl and I love to do all the spa stuff and take care of myself, especially when I'm competing. But I also realize that I need to ease into those things too, because I'm not training in those scenarios. And then I come, like, I don't have even high heels or anything on to, so people are practicing like crazy for stage. And, I fly in and then I practice for like a week ahead of time and hope for the best. So I hope I remember how to walk in heels.
Are you still competing?
I might next August. Yeah. Yeah. I usually just do at Worlds. So Worlds is every August.
Every August. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you hope for in terms of women, especially in this industry, to feel? Because, like you said, there is beauty in everything. You just got to find it, right? But
Yeah.
like you said, if the girl is too jacked up, is that beautiful or is that scary? Who is to judge, by the way?
They should absolutely judge for
No,
themselves.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I've had those things bother me before. I've had people tell me that, or judge the way I looked or tell me that it was gross. I remember and this really bothered me once. This came from another woman and I just thought, oh, I hate when that happens. I think we're supposed to be there for each other and support each other, but it was a woman that I admired because she was, in this scenario, she was a female pilot. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I started my pilot's license when I was in my 20s too. So I love flying and I really admired her but much older than me and a different mentality. And just, we were in Afghanistan and she's like, that guys think it's gross, right? That they actually talk about you behind your back. They think it's ugly. I was like, I don't feel like that, but thanks for saying, like, bringing that up. Like, why would somebody say that, And I just thought that, everyone's going to have their views on what they think is beautiful. And I know from being so well traveled now that the views change quite a bit with age, with countries, with what is beauty in different parts of this world, right? So it really, when it comes down to it, you've got to decide for yourself how you want to be and what you find beautiful and what you're proud of. So yeah, I know in many of the countries I've been in, I would be far too skinny. I wouldn't be attractive in Congo, in certain countries, right? And I know
that
that.
is actually a sign of wealth, isn't it? It's like that's what or success. Sorry.
Yeah.
That the bigger the person is,
Right.
yeah, more well to do they are because it's not starvation.
Exactly. Yeah. So true.
It's interesting. Yeah, different places, different cultures, and
right.
Yeah, the world is big, yet it's small, isn't it?
Yeah.
What have you learned traveling the world, seeing some of the most beautiful places and some of the darkest places? What do we as humans have in common?
Well, I think that one of the biggest lessons is how little of importance money actually is on happiness is what I've seen in a lot of the countries I've been in, because I've been in mostly poor countries. And there were many times where, and people also just want to donate and that's great. But a lot of the times when I was deployed, we were, if we were in Uganda, we were driving to Kampala, to a bigger city for the day. And on the drive back, we drive through a lot of little villages. And often, not just there in Congo and all over, we would bring like basketballs or volleyballs or whatever, and we would go out and buy a whole bunch of just equipment like that, and we would just stuff our van full of it. And then on the drive home, we would maybe like bring out some balls to the villages or things like that. But we'd always get out and actually go play with them. And a lot of the times, as language barriers and everything, we can't speak to each other, but we can communicate in just play and chasing each other, around. And that was what we love to do. And so I also teach yoga on the side as well. And so I would actually teach yoga to some of the kids in the villages, and then the pilots would play soccer with them, or, you would just do what you could do. And I loved it. Like, it was so much fun. And these kids, they didn't want technology. They didn't want iPhones. They just wanted like a ball to play with and people to be nice to them. And they were all giggling and having fun. And it was just, I don't think any of them would have been happy if we thought we were saving them by uprooting them and taking them out of their family village with their, those that they're close with, and giving them all the goods that some of us have here. I don't think that would have made them happy. So I think having their family around, and I think that that's what makes me happy too, is home is where my family is. So my closest family members are my sister and my nephews. So this is home for me. And this isn't where I'm from, but it's because of them that this is home. Right. So I think just knowing what's important. And over the years, I've just come to realize that some of these material things just really don't matter, but my experiences have, so like what I'm proud of is, that's what I'm proud of, like seeing the world and traveling around and seeing different countries and, having meeting people and having fun.
Are you over it?
Over the travel? I don't want to travel in the same way. I still will, but I want to do different things now. So I think with Army of Angels, I do plan on turning it into some retreats eventually. So we will actually, in 6 weeks, we're meeting in Toronto for the first kind of get together, but Toronto is not a big travel experience, right, for us. So we're just meeting there because more of them are there. So we're having our first weekend get together with my team. But in the next few years, I want to be able to take them to Thailand, Mexico,
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe the US, and we'll just have some smaller retreats. But I want to travel in different ways. So I still want to complete my bucket list. There's still things that I didn't do while I was on deployments because we had a lot of time off. And that's why I kept staying, because I enjoyed that time off. And there's a lot I still want to do, and I will. I'm just going to do them in different ways. So
still need to lonely now though in life, because it's like you by yourself. It's quiet now.
Yeah.
Like you're in this go mentality, and all of a sudden it's like 2 months of not much.
Oh, on time off?
Well, no, just right now, like your life now. It's so different, isn't it?
I think, it is. And I think I've just been so busy that I haven't felt that at all, because starting a new business, being an entrepreneur for the first time in my life, while I've always been an employee, is shockingly busy.
It's a grind. Yeah.
It is. And it's still small. Like we're still small, but I have a vision for where I want to go. So I'm just grinding every day. And I just think, this is good. This is the most I've ever worked by far, but I'm passionate about it.
Yeah. Something you love, and you really know this industry.
Yeah. I've been doing it long enough, so I don't feel like I'm new at it in any way at all. So that helps.
And I'm sure there's so much value you can add. It's not just physically, it's mindset. How do you train in places that are foreign to you under pressure? I mean, hopefully not many people have to do that, but it's the analogies of mindset, right? And that building that calluses on your mind to strengthen it.
Yeah. And I think some of them that have come to me, they've been following my Instagram for a while too. So they see that I've trained in these ways, with like every show prep was from a different war zone. And so it's funny because there's been times where they've complained about something like, but I don't have bumper plates. And I was like, well, and they're like, yeah, you literally lifted cement in South Sudan for a show prep. Okay. We won't bug you.
Well, I know people got like the craziest equipment at home and they don't work out.
So it's not that too.
They got the nicest stuff, but you're not doing anything.
That won't, and that's it. Like, just like that, the fancy stuff doesn't really matter. How fast do we get over it? Mm-hmm. Right? Like the second the next iPhone comes out, we all jump to buy it. And then you're over it in, 3 months, maybe. Yeah.
And then you're like, next, more.
Yeah. It's always about, and that's why I really appreciated my time in Africa and the Middle East, was because I really became more content with less. Like there were times where, in every way I'd pack for 2-month period, which would sometimes, to my surprise, turn into 9 months, but I only have what I packed for that time. So I was used to just having the basics. And then I was used to having less options with our groceries or, gyms, if there was a gym. So I just became content with less. So now I've still got that in me. And I hope that never leaves. I hope that, now when I wake up every day and I go for a walk in Mahogany by the lake and I just take it all in, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so lucky to be here. And I have that mentality because I've spent all this time deployed. And I hope I never lose that.
In terms of someone trying to reach out to you, before we get going here, how can they do so?
Well, on Instagram, it would be Julia Shelley is the main page. Army of Angels is our team page. And on Facebook, it's Julia Shelley as well.
Are you taking on any clients right now?
I am actually, yeah. I'm, thanks for asking. I'm probably some one-on-one is always offered, so people could apply for one-on-one at any time. I have links in my bio.
Sure, I'll add them in on the website too. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. And but I'm really passionate about doing the groups. I know groups aren't for everyone, but it's that extra accountability and community. The girls kind of cheer each other on, and they're on the same journey. They have the exact same attention as one-to-one. They just have the group calls, and we do the group calls once a week, and they just learn so much. So that's the only difference. So I let people choose what's best for them.
Oh, yeah. Super cool. And what can we hope for in the next, I don't know, let's say year? Where do you want to be in a year? Here's a little digital capsule.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I love to think about that because this is the first time in my life that everything is so different. I mean, I just left a career of 21 years. I've come home and started a business.
So this is your full-time gig? You don't have any?
Full-time. I don't have benefits. I don't have anything.
No, but like no other income other than.
No, this is it. So it's scary. It's scary. But that's why I did start it while I was on, and I had one last tour, but still only one last tour. I knew it was time to leave. So I was at that point though, that I was thankful for my time there. But I was at a point where if this didn't work out, I would work at Starbucks. It's okay. It's all good. I was ready to leave.
Well, thanks for your time today, Julie. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for meeting with me.